Good morning, traders. I see a subdued uh, movement in the markets this morning, even though the U.S. indices are way down. A lot of that happened over in the Asia session. And we have a little bit of a bid in the futures in Euro right now, but I wouldn't read too much into that. They just seem to be a little bit oversold here. I don't think there's going to be that much of a bid in the Euro session. If anything, it might be hard to push it lower, but I honestly don't see it going much higher either. Okay, and we did have some bad economic data hit the tape out of Europe this morning too. So adding, you know, it was it missed the forecast. But I guess it might have been less bad than what the markets were anticipating. Anyway, I'm going to look over the U.S. indices, the global indices. I'm going to look at the monthly time frames, and I'm calling this session Hammer Time because I see the U.S. indices putting in hammers on across the board after today's close in the markets and on the monthly time frame, and that is a strong bearish continuation pattern going into next week. Okay, and I'm going to go over some of the critical levels. Best setups and some of the latest news. Okay, and so let's get started in this session right here. We are dojied out for the month on the SPY, and we closed right at the Friday close of we are right at the closing price for Friday. Dojied out right here, completely neutral for the week based on our market maker indicators. So just keep that in mind. Completely neutral on SPY for our options this week. That's so we could go either way, obviously, during this session. I am still leaning to the downside. We've already tested multiple times with serious resistance up here on the SPY. So I'm still leaning to the downside on this setup going into today's session. The Qs, let's see here. We actually have a hammer. There you go. We've got that hammer going on here right now. And this is you're not seeing the morning session. We are marking the very lows that we put in yesterday in the morning session. We haven't broken down past yet, but we are marking the very lows. So just keep that in mind. We do have a hammer here. We are also right there at the Friday close. So keep that in mind. Smack dab right in the middle of the market maker moves for this week. So I do still think a strong possibility we start testing the lower end of the range from here. IWM. This one here really had relative weakness yesterday because of the crude sell-off and the financial sell-off. Both of them are heavily weighted on the NASDAQ or the Russell. And basically, it's marking a little bit lower too, so we have a hammer on it too. And we are right in the range of the Friday close also, last Friday close. So, right smack dab in the middle of the expected market maker move this week. But this one here, it has a gravity point to the week before. There, we had some overlapping value between the 2 weeks. So this one here is definitely, I think it's going to continue to show relative weakness. And then our diamonds, I'm really concerned about Boeing up here. I think it's one stock that's definitely, if we start seeing any continuation in selling pressure today, Boeing is going to take us down. And when it moves, it really impacts the diamonds. And here we go. We are at the bottom of the diamonds. Also, we have a hammer on the monthly chart at the last Friday, or maybe slightly below Friday's close. So just keep this on your watch. It's a little bit dangerous here going into this session. Okay, Germany really had a bad day, or it's been having a bad week, and we first tested the upper end of the market maker move, and now we closed breaking below the market maker move for the week. So it completely engulfed this range yesterday, I think. I mean, just complete carnage. We are catching a slight bid in the German DAX. I think it's just coming back testing this market maker move low, and we'll see what happens. But a lot of risk. We had bad data out of Germany. I could see definitely continuation to the downside, retesting these prior lows. And if that's the case, this is only half the move for the week if we start seeing some selling pressure coming into the Eurozone. The biggest dollar mover in the overnight session, that was our Nikkei. So just keep that in mind. Completely rejecting our 2018 value area. We've been testing for 3 months now. We were testing it. Now we're rejecting it once again. Very dangerous setup. If that's the case, then we're going to be coming back into our 2017 value build out. And this primary trend line, this is the one area in the world markets that I think is the most risky to put the global markets into a recession, because this Germany or the Eurozone and stuff like that, I think they're going to work that out. But this here, they're being impacted by the whole tariff, all the tariff stuff going on with China too. There's a lot of reasons to think that Japan is actually going to be the area that's going to create a lot of issues going forward into this year. Okay. And if you go on, yes, the monthly. Okay, I'm not going to do the other time frames. Okay, a secondary view on our SPY. We have had from the December lows, we've been in this really nice tight channel, and it has expanded. And we are at the maximum end of that channel now. We actually broke that yesterday, and here we are marking right at the lows. And I do not think the bottom is in. We're going to back test this trend line. We've back tested it before, and that's why I do think we are going to have continuation based on this trend line analysis. We're going to be back testing the 2680 area, 266.80 area today. The Qs have not actually broken that trend yet, but they are getting quite close here. We're going to open right here at the lows, potentially breaking out of this uptrend from December on our opening tick this morning. And the next responsive bid area is right down, is down quite a bit. So we're probably looking at this moving average. Can't remember which one that is. And so we're looking at the 264.73 area if we start seeing some responsive sell-off here. And this is in the in the fib zones area. This is an accelerated move area for the fib zone area. So keep that in mind that if it does start moving, that it can move pretty fast. And then IWM, similar situation. We've broken the uptrend, marking on the lows of the day, and we're moving into that accelerated zone on the Fibonacci's. So, knowing that we're going into this zone, this is I said earlier that I thought it was going to be a tighter area. I mean, if the selling pressure does start coming in here, it can move pretty quick based on our Fibonacci analysis. Some things to keep on watch today, and one is ticker ACB. It's Aurora Cannabis. Their earnings hit Monday. Okay, I can't remember if they're Monday morning or Monday evening or whatever. This is the first cannabis company their earnings hitting this quarter. So just keep that in mind that the cannabis has been on fire, and cannabis is one of the next big driving forces for the markets going into the future. So it's very important how the market reacts to these numbers, the valuations based on the price action. Because if you notice, cannabis has really been on fire, and it's up considerably here. So this is one of the areas. Look how much we've come up. We're actually trading right. It sold off last quarter based on our earnings. So we want this to actually higher guidance and outperform to support this industry. Okay, so especially the major growth industry in the markets today. So just keep that in mind. This is major tell for future risk on appetite in the markets, in my opinion. I'm keeping XLNX. This is a semiconductor stock. They specialize in 5G technology, and I think it's just about ready to break out to make new highs. I think this is just the first run into a much, much larger move. I think we're going to see before the next earnings come out about 130 a share on this XLNX. And the reason I mention this right here, right now, Trump came out overnight tweeting he's got legislation on his desk that he wants to ban Chinese telecom from entering the U.S. Out of fears of surveillance equipment and surveillance software. And if that's the case, this is going to completely shut Huawei out of the U.S. markets for telecommunication stuff. And guess who's going to get all that business? XLNX, or a large percentage of it. So just keep that in mind if that's the case. And this could also be bullish for Apple if the markets decide to catch a bid today. The idea of shutting out China from telecom stuff. But this is something just keep on your watch. If not today, if you start seeing it break out, you may want to start adding here in the not so distant future on the bullish side. And this is the big growth sector for semiconductors going forward into the for the next decade. So yeah, we're seeing 130 a share right here. This thing could be at least $500-600 a share here in a few years, depending on because of the solid demand in the 5G development. Some additional bullish setups if we were to get a responsive bid in the markets today. UNP, Union Pacific, closed with a very bullish setup going into next week. It looks like it's putting in a bull flag to resolve back up to all-time highs on Union Pacific. It already beat on earnings, gapped up, and it's another one like XLNX. It looks like it's wanting to resolve back to the 165 area very easily next week, depending on the markets. Another mover, if the markets decide to catch a bid today, Nike. And the main reason I am featuring this here, because we had a really nice quarter out of Skechers, and this was already getting a lot of interest anyway, and it has a pretty nice volume profile as of the close yesterday. This is one that I can very easily see in back to 52-week highs here next week, if not today. I mean, this thing could take off pretty darn quick here if the markets decide to catch a bid. On the short side, Facebook has a continuation sell pattern going into going into today. And let me check it out. We'll see where it's at right here. Okay, it is marking lower. We are breaking, pushing down and potentially breaking some support areas. We've had this massive gap up. This whole sector looks way overbought. Profit taking coming into the sector. I say at least part, if not all, of this gap is going to have to be taken care of. So it looks like the 161.80 area could be in the cards even today for Facebook. Apple had a continuation sell signal, gapping down this morning. We are testing an algo support area right here, right now. So that's not a very good sign to be testing that this early in the morning. Sign of a continuation lower. I've got Boeing on watch. If you've got your fib fans, it's right here at the 50% fib fan. So this is not one of my favorite sell situations. But if the indices do start selling off, then Boeing is overpriced, in my opinion, right here, right now. It has had it's come up. And the pattern I'm looking at on Boeing, this is really going to be interesting for you guys. Let's see. Okay, what I'm looking at for Boeing right here, left shoulder, head, and then potentially a right shoulder if the markets catch a sell-off here. The reason I say that, on this Fibonacci move based off this consolidation, we've already hit the 61.8% move. And this would be a textbook head and shoulders breakout failure pattern I'm not saying for sure it's going to work that way, but I'm just saying there is significant reason to think this is going to be a failed pattern. It just might take a while for it to play out. So just keep this one on your watch to the short side. Another one hitting my list this morning, and that is Oracle. And if you notice, when we get up here near these highs, these above these market maker moves, Oracle tends to crash right back down and reset. And I think that's what's happening right here. So this is actually one of my favorite shorts going into the session for a swing 1 or 2 weeks out. So just keep that in mind. And it doesn't have any reaction to speak of early this morning. We do have on our 1 hour an SMA cross that we could be putting in here on Oracle to the downside. This is, like I said, this is one of my favorite shorts. I mean, we have a complete cutoff situation on this volume profile. So any type of lower bids here, it can move pretty quick all the way down to the 49 area relatively quickly. Okay, at 10 o'clock, we have our wholesale inventories, which is a major economic indicator. This tells you basically what type of inventory build that could possibly be happening in the U.S. markets. And if we start seeing a build in inventories, that's really bad for the markets, and it could really kick off the selling pressure later in today. So 10 o'clock, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of selling in the market until after 10 o'clock. And then if that turns out bad, then we could actually start resolving down pretty quick. And then Monday, we have industrial production out of the UK, which could also be a bearish indication for the markets. So basically, I have a bearish bias in the markets, mainly because of we broke so many critical support trends that were going on since December, and I just don't see a huge risk-on appetite under that situation. Thanks a lot, and I will see you guys next week.